everyone, Brian Gottlieb here. And
It's Endell here.
What's up, everybody?
I'm Amy.
I'm Hank.
And we're Goblin Reserve.
I'm Matt Rogers. I'm from PCG.
I'm Craig Krempels.
James White here, listening to the Instant Speed Podcast.
This is the Instant Speed Podcast.
You're listening to the Instant Speed Podcast.
Welcome to the Instant Speed Podcast.
to welcome you to the Living Legend Podcast. Nope, wrong podcast. What's the name of your podcast, Flink?
Not Arsenal Pass.
You're listening to the Instant Speed Podcast, easily the second best podcast for the Flesh and Blood game.
Big shout out. Hopefully Flake's found somebody other than me to be on it this time.
Hit that like and subscribe button now.
Well, I work hard. How come everybody wants to shuffle my cards? And I think that it's true. There's nothing of importance on the 6 o'clock news, and I believe
The Realm Games is the industry leader in both service and unique events in the TCG arena. Whether it's running the largest community-run tournaments for Flesh and Blood or providing service with a generosity that is unique to the Realm Games, you can count on the Realm for an unforgettable experience. Check out their website at realmgamingnetwork.com for details about their $50,000 Flesh and Blood tournament circuit happening all across North America. But check out everything else going on at the Realm, including tournaments for all kinds of other experiences. And just for you, ISP listeners, use the code INSTANT5, that's INSTANT 5, to get 5% off your checkout when you're buying from the Realm. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all flesh and blood, appropriate ages, this is the Instant Speed Podcast, episode number 115. I have with me a lost soul, a wandering to the floating dojo himself. I don't know how else to. I'm so bad at this. Ninja. Don't play ninja. Stick to your roots, man. It is the wizardly presence of one MajiinBae. How are you, buddy?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm doing very good, actually. Things are going well, and you know we're ramping up for Pro Tour Los Angeles, which is really awesome. I wrote an article for fabtcg.com that it's not out yet, but usually before Pro Tours or Worlds, they ask me to do like a, hey, get primed for this event. And I wrote, I think about 5,000 words, which I just kept writing. And then I sent it to them and they're like, yeah, this is a lot. So could you get rid of half of it? It's like, yes, I will do that. And I didn't know what to get rid of.
Publishing this. Like
that's what they said. They're like, dude, you're still getting paid the same amount. So cool. Thank you for the effort, but we don't need all of this. So look out for that. But I'm just hyped, man. There's so much stuff going on.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Yeah, I mean, I love Pro Tours. I live for this stuff.
It
Big
is
card game tournaments, traveling with the boys. Like
that's kind of
the
part of it is the appeal of just saying, I get to see this person, I get to see you, I get to do this, I get to agonize over trying to fit in 48 people into a dinner
80th
plan.
Sideboard slot.
Oh, this 80th. Yeah. Well, that too. I mean, I'm not even talking about the deck part. That kind of. But PT LA's coming up. Plus, I mean, I'm just gonna be completely honest with you. Star Wars Unlimited, the card game, comes out in like a few days, and I am hyped. No offense to.
I know. I've been seeing your Twitter.
Oh yeah, I got my.
Been seeing stuff popping up.
Packs ready to go. Anyway, so
I tried a TwitchCon.
Dude, it's a great game. I'm just going to be flat out here. And for those who think that you can't play more than one game, you can play more than one game. You could like two things. It's possible.
I would never.
No? Well, this is what we're going to have to actually talk about a little bit here. But before we get to that, I do want to announce the winner of the giveaway. I said every week we're giving away $10 for a wonderful person who listens to the podcast who responds to the videos. Last week, I asked, what's your most memorable moment watching a Fab cast? What sort of resonates with you? And our winner this week is Martin Cox, who says, my most memorable casting moment was Worlds 2022. My interest in the game started picking up just a few weeks before Worlds. I watched the entire event having never touched a fab card. After the event was over, I knew absolutely this was a community I wanted to be a part of, and now have not regretted any moment since. That's a nice little moment there. So, for you, Martin Cox, $10 at the Realm. Just contact me. I don't come to you. Have your people contact my people. And you know what, Majiin? Because you're here, today's giveaway that we're going to set up to give away next week, $50. $50 of store credit at the Realm. All right.
I'm honored.
It's purely you. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, what if we just do none? And you're like, no, more.
I fight for the people.
That's a good move. I like that. Let's talk a little bit about sort of the backstory here, because there's a bigger story that has essentially affected the card gaming as an industry in general. But for you specifically, the loss of Runeterra is immense. This is where, look, we're going to talk about this, and it's kind of upsetting, but it's the reality because it's card gaming, and we want to talk about it. Like, the industry being as volatile as it is, you lost what basically, I don't want to say what made you who you are, but a game that you have put so much blood, sweat, and tears into is now essentially shutting its doors from a competitive standpoint. Can you comment a little bit about the loss of Runeterra?
Yeah. So for those not familiar, Legends of Runeterra is the Riot card game. It's an online, digital-only card game. It's been around for about 3-4 years now. And for the last 3-4 years now, I've been a full-time Legend of Runeterra content creator, streamer, YouTuber, competitor, all that kind of stuff. It was my main game. Flesh and Blood's always been my, side game for funsies that I really enjoy. And Riot went through some big changes, big layoffs, and decided to basically axe Legend of Runeterra. It's pretty much being hibernated. It's going to continue making stuff for PvE only on like a bit of a skeleton crew. So I unfortunately this news was very sudden. So it was a tremendous blow, let's say. I was getting laid off right there with the other Riot employees is what it felt like. It's just like wake up one day and be like boom, poof, it's gone. So that's been a bit jarring, let's say.
I would imagine. And this is one thing that a lot of people just don't necessarily understand. For yourself, for myself, like, this is our career. It's so intimately tethered to the success of these games, even though these companies, for example, LSS and Riot, they owe us nothing. Like, they don't owe us like, hey, here's a heads up or anything like that. Like, this is what a lot of people may not understand, is that, for example, if it happened to you, and it's really unfortunate because it's not just you, it's so many other people, obviously the employees at Riot, but if LSS just shut their doors tomorrow, I'm out of so much work. I'm out of so much opportunity, so much income and revenue and just lifestyle. It's difficult in that regard. How did you kind of process it? Like, was it just this sort of mourning, or is it like, let's celebrate what's left of it? How did you approach that news?
Bit of shock, I feel like, at first. The first day was just like what? Like, what? Everything, all these people that I know, right? Think of the Flesh and Blood community and think of all these people that you know through Flesh and Blood or whatever, and you just realize, like, oh, I'm never going to talk to these people again. Unless it's through some other like medium or whatever. Like, that was really hard for me to get over because I made a lot of friends in Runeterra, obviously. And then I have like a sort of like a fix-it brain. So just immediately it was like, what the fuck do I do? And it was just like a mountain of stress. I'm still stressed, right? It's just like, what do I do now? Do I look for something else? Is there something else I want to get into? Do I start handing out my resume, right? Like, what do I do from here? It's been tough. Honestly, I'm going to be real with you. The hardest part is going on stream and having people give you the worst suggestions in Twitch chat about what you should do next. That is by far the worst part of this so far.
What's the worst that you've heard? I mean, Twitch chat is just known for having
Gwen.
such... Oh, was it actually Gwen?
Multiple times.
Well,
multiple times. We were like, just stream Gwent, bro.
Look,
No.
I will, as somebody who spent many many successful years with Gwent. Gwent is an incredible game. At the height of Gwent, it wasn't even a good idea to stream Gwent. I'll be completely honest with you. The game is amazing. I don't regret being involved with it at all. But let's be real. I mean, even at its height, it was not a lucrative or viable career option to stream Gwent. It just wasn't.
Yep. I keep telling everybody, I'm like, there's 2 criteria. 1, I have to like the game. 2, which I like Gwent. I think it's fun. 2, it has to like have enough viewer base for me to sustain myself off it. Otherwise, I cannot make content. And we'll probably get into this a little bit with Flesh and Blood, I feel like, later down the line of this podcast. And then people just recommend insert X or Y currently not being supported game with 3 viewers on Twitch. And it's like, this doesn't, you guys are, there's only 2 steps, guys. Like there's only 2 pieces of criteria here.
Yeah, the tough part was I remember just kind of like saying, like last year, just being like, oh, let's have a look. And again, when I say last year, the game was still being supported by all, you know, and just being like, oh, there's 72 total viewers across all channels streaming or watching Gwent right now at like 11 p.m. on like a Tuesday. And obviously that time slot is not great, but if you do that on any other card game and you're like, there's still several thousand people across multiple channels. So now we're going to kind of take this, you know, this unfortunate news and kind of overlay it onto Flesh and Blood. And Flesh and Blood has just sort of announced in previous episodes that we've done, talking about like their economic strength and from a market perspective, how well they're doing. You know, they don't have shareholders, but it's one of those things where if they did, they'd all be happy because the game is operating at no debt. It's growing.
That's insane, by the way. I feel like people don't know that's insane. That's insane to be operating solely off profit. That's nuts.
I am completely. This is why we had Riddlerman on a couple of weeks ago because he has a lot of business knowledge and financial knowledge, and he walked us through that. But I think that's an important aspect is like operating without debt, and then having James say like, no, everything we make, we reinvest into the company. We owe nobody nothing. We don't answer to shareholders. And I think that for the long run, that might tie into why, Flesh and Blood might be insulated from the business volatility. But it's not just card games, because Overwatch League took a kick. It's booted out the door. I had talked to Uber about that last week. Is Flesh and Blood safe?
I mean, I'm not the person to ask.
Sure.
But like way more safe than the other options right now. Like you have a business that clearly, like one, like you said, doesn't owe itself to shareholders. The majority of like what you would consider shitty decisions by businesses where you're like, why would anybody want this? Is basically because people invest in companies and then they need a return on their money. They want more money back. So they want to pump the price of their stock or whatever. Let's say I invest in Carl's Jr. So what I do is I dump $100 million into Carl's Jr.
Oh, do you hear
and
that?
I make
Sorry.
the hamburgers.
It's the middle of February, and there's a thunderstorm outside here in Toronto where... Sorry, I've just had to say, because I just got rocked by a gigantic thunderclap. I apologize.
We couldn't hear it at all.
Okay, go. I apologize. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let's say I dump $100 million into Carl's Jr. I want $150 million back. So what do? I slash the quality of the hamburgers even more, if that's possible. And I make, now we make an extra 10% or 15% margin on our hamburgers. And then I show at our quarterly whatever thing, hey, look, we're making more money because we were able to slash costs. Oh, look, the stock goes up. I sell out. And now Carl's Jr. burgers are shittier forever. But I got my money. That's all I care about, right? That happens like a lot, like a lot. You can trace a lot of business decisions that you'd be like, why would anybody do this? Back to that kind of stuff. If Flesh and Blood doesn't owe anybody any money, they never have to make those decisions. Not saying they'll never make a decision that is like unpopular or anything, but if they aren't beholden to anybody, nobody can tell them that they're going to release some sets that are going to be unpopular, but they think that will be like, no one can tell them they can't do basically, I think what they did recently, which is like power scale down the format. That doesn't sell boxes. But like, I think it was a tremendous decision for the game. That's a whole conversation that maybe we could have a different time. But like, that's not something they could do if they were beholden to shareholders who'd be like, no, you need to be putting like, this set needs to have busted cards so that you'd sell more boxes because we need more, like we need a return on our profits and we need them now. I feel like Flesh and Blood is in such a healthy spot already. And then hearing how they were doing financially made me feel like even better about it.
That's a good point. And ultimately, one of the words that I heard Brian use multiple times when it came down to things like Dusk Till Dawn or Bright Lights was risk. Like, we took a risk. And that is like the worst word to use when you are beholden to shareholders, when they're like, you're playing with our investment here, you're playing with our money. Risk is not what we want to hear. But when you are not under the thumb of other people, you can take those risks. But again, at the same time, doesn't mean you're any more insulated against the volatility or the damage. And the game's doing well from a player growth perspective. They're going to Japan and starting to expand there, the second biggest TCG market on the planet. Like, I feel like it's good, but at the same time, there's still so much, Gwent died this year, Runeterra died this year. Those are all digital clients, MTG,
different models.
Yeah.
Free to play online digital models. Yeah.
MTG Arena is always been kind of a lightning rod for scrutiny because of the UI or things like that. But ultimately, are paper games just in general, do you think, just much better suited to survive these days? Or is it just happen to be that what the things that are failing now are just digital?
I think like right now, people are just really into paper TCGs. Like, this is like the biggest resurgence of paper TCGs I've seen in my lifetime, I feel like. Where they're coming out, they're doing well. People are excited to go to events. And the digital model is tough to crack. Like, Magic Arena did, I think, they've pretty much solved it. You want a profitable game, you make Magic Arena or you make Hearthstone. But like, people don't like that model, right? It's like, it feels kind of shitty. And so, Riot and Gwent, like, they tried something new. They tried this free-to-play model, and they just like couldn't quite make it happen. TFT suffered from the same thing, which is not a card game, but very similar in genre, right? Still a strategy game. Free-to-play model, couldn't quite get it to work monetarily. And so they kept trying new things, and then they hit like the gotcha chibi system. I don't know if you even play TFT. And basically like struck gold. And they figured it out. So now they're doing fine. But like, these other games couldn't find that model that really worked for them. And you can only like lose money for so long.
So we talked a little bit about some of the bad ideas that you've heard about where you'll eventually land post Runeterra, but you've dove into TFT now, and it was so bittersweet. You being such a good friend of mine, seeing that last tweet where you went like 9-0 in a qualifier for the last Worlds, and then you lost in top 8, and it's just unfortunate that you couldn't win it all. But you did your best. You honored the game by not taking it lightly. But the bottom part of that final tweet that you made was, we start TFT, the TFT road tomorrow. That is a huge transition. Is that now is your Twitter handle going to be MajiinBae TFT instead of LOR?
MajiinBae LOR for a long time, probably. Until I can change it to just MajiinBae, it'll be MajiinBae LOR. I don't know. It's like part of me, like my mouse pad right now is just a giant LOR art with my name on the bottom right. This right here is Zoe, and it's signed by basically the entire like Legend of Runeterra team that I met like a couple weeks ago. Now this is a huge deal for me. Runeterra introduced me to the world of like content creation. Runeterra took me from a guy who thought he was like kind of good at card games to a guy who like knew he could compete at card games. Runeterra's a really, really big deal to me. So I'm not going to take the LOR off until I can get just MajiinBae. It won't change to anything else.
Well, we're glad that you're finding passion in other things, because a passionate MajiinBae is always an entertaining MajiinBae, and that's it's just fun to watch you do your thing, and you're one of the good ones out there. But one of those passions you have is Wizard, and you say that you kind of have
great transition. Wow,
that's why they pay me the big bucks, man. Yeah, you like that, right? Damn right.
That was good. That was good.
The worst, by the way, and this is always annoying for me to hear, is when somebody is just saying, speaking of speaking of Legends of Runeterra, let's talk about hubcaps. It's like, where's the transition there? Anyway.
Traffic stops.
So let's talk about Wizard and Kano specifically, because right now, right this moment, this is the hottest I think I've seen the entire community be regarding a hero that has existed for 3 years and 11 months. The hero came out at the end of March in 2020. I did look it up. So it's been around for a shade under 4 years, and just now, people are like, this is the worst thing to ever happen since whatever the last worst thing was to ever happen, which was, okay, we're off Cast Bones, we're off Warmonger's Diplomacy, we're off Codex of Frailty.
Was it like Lexi was the last?
Who knows, man?
Like thing ruining Flesh and Blood.
Exactly, everything's ruining Flesh and Blood, yet everybody's doing okay. But let's talk about it, because this Kano has existed for so long, but it's just now that there's this very loud outcry, and I'm gonna ask you, where did this resurgence come from for Kano? Because Kano, from what you tell me and from what Peter Budensic tells me, this is a deck that really hasn't seen much of a seismic shift since, obviously, Aether Wildfire. But beyond that, it's like, what are the additions that have been put in the deck? What, the Potion of Deja Vu? Like, what's the big change?
That's it.
So
Potion of Deja Vu and Aether Wildfire are the only changes the deck has seen in like 2 years.
So then where is this coming from?
So the metagame is shifting a bit, and Kano's slightly better positioned. Basically, if you're playing against a combo deck, you need two things. And for the rest of this podcast, I'm going to be referencing this a lot. You need two things against every combo deck, period, in any game. It doesn't even matter. You need two things. You need a clock. You need to put them on a clock. And you need disruption. That comes in different forms, right? So disruption could be Thoughtseize in Magic the Gathering. It could be Command and Conquer, Send Packing, right? Things like that. Disruption also against Wizard, Kano specifically, because his combo works like multiplicatively. So anything you can do to reduce the damage Aether Wildfire does is disrupting his combo. Therefore, Arcane Barrier, Oasis Respite, Steadfast, Spell Void, this all counts as disruption. Arcane Barrier only counts as disruption if you're able to present that clock while also maintaining Arcane Barrier up. That's the disrupting part. So you need those two things, and a lot of decks just don't have those. they're just like, you know what? I'm fine. I'm just gonna lose to Kano. Like, Victor is just throwing his hands up in the air. He's like, I'm just not gonna present a clock, and I'm not gonna run any disruption. And then they lose to Kano, and they're like, how could LSS do this? But yeah, so it's like right now there's just less disruption in the format. And so there's less disruption, and decks are going slow. Warrior's slow. Guardian is slow, and they're not presenting this disruption. If you wanted to make a Dorinthia loses to Kano right now. If you wanted to build Dorinthia to beat Kano, you can. You can do that. People just currently aren't doing that because it's not what you should do. Because you're going to play against a lot more Guardians, and you're going to play against a lot more Brutes than you're going to play against Wizards, right? But I think people are just like, more people are picking up Kano than I think ever before, since I've been playing Flesh and Blood. And some people are realizing that like their AB1 Bravo deck just like isn't going to get there. That now they have a bad matchup into Kano, and they're not stoked about it. Also, I'm going to go on a lot of rants this podcast. I'm so sorry. I apologize.
No, that's what we're here for. This is a therapy session, because Lord knows that you and I at 11 p.m. in the hotel rooms have you've been there for me for a lot of rants as well.
If you cannot right now quote me Aether Wildfire math, if you cannot tell me how much damage Aether Wildfire does, like the combo, and then how much damage it'll do if you AB 1, 2, or 3, you are not allowed to whine about Kano.
I wanted to get to this, and I think we're going to get to it right now, because you were spot on about this, about a certain thing. Here is, I'm going to, like, some of the quotes that I was picking up, because I legitimately put out there into the Twitter sphere, I asked with full sincerity, why now? What is the biggest thing now that has turned people against Kano that suddenly the world is crumbling because of it? And I got a lot of very genuine responses, and I appreciate that, because this wasn't me looking to embarrass anybody. It wasn't me looking to, tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. I genuinely wanted to know why people were upset about it. And some of the sentiment I got in the responses were, I got to sit there and wonder what the hell is going on and then lose. So there is your problem. And I have said this so many times about so many games that if you want to go from average to a good player, you better know your deck inside out. If you want to go from good to great, you better know the meta and how your deck plays into it. But if you want to go from great to elite, you better know how their deck is playing and how their deck wins. That's the way that you improve as a player. And a lot of people are just like, no, I know my deck and I know what I want to do. But I don't want to sit there and realize that this complicated deck that these Kano players have really busted their ass to figure out precisely what you say, the reach of like, okay, how do I, like, what is the damage if they have a blue in hand, a red in hand, or a yellow in hand based off their AB that they have access to and go through all the ins and outs of it. That's the burden of the Kano player. Your burden as the other player is to realize what their reach is with the cards that they have in hand. And yeah, you're not going to win if you have no idea what they're doing. I'm not saying that you're insulated from losing by knowing what their deck does, but that you at least have an idea. And a lot of the sentiment that I got, Majiin, is the fact that people were just precisely that. I don't know what the hell's going on. I have to sit there while they do all this cosmic math to figure out whether I'm dead or not. And that's not a good experience. I put in the time with you, with Peter, where you taught me, and Peter taught me a lot of that reach and a lot of the combo aspect. And it hasn't necessarily made me immune to Kano matches. It just has given me a better opportunity of like, if I fall to 30, I'm dead. So I better AB this one here to stay alive, because if the combo happens. So are you getting that same sentiment that people are just, I don't want to say, lazy is not the term I want to use, but just not willing to put in the same work as the Kano player to figure it out?
Yeah, and that's kind of okay, right? If they're like, I'm not here to win a pro tour, I just want to have fun at my armory, and Kano blasts me, and I don't have any fun, and I don't like that. That's valid. That's like a totally okay thing to say. But you can't say Kano's ruining the game, right? Like, anyone who thinks Kano's ruining the game, I need them to pick up Kano and play it for 3 weeks. And then I need them to come back to me and tell me that this deck's busted, right? Like, it's not going to happen. My favorite thing is to give someone a Kano deck who like has played against Kano but has never played the deck. And then you just look over at their game and they have 8 cards in their pitch deck and they dealt 3 damage. And they're like, what happened here? Like, how do you win the game, right? Kano's not even that, like, getting Kano to 80%, not that complicated. You watch that one Arsenal Pass video about how to play Kano, best Kano video ever made, by the way. You learn what the combo does, and you're most of the way there. The other 20%, really, really hard. But like, everyone should have a base understanding of what Kano does. And I think once you do have an understanding, there's just a lot of spots where it's like, I have 2 attacks I can send. One costs 3 and leaves you with no resources. But I'm at 32 and my opponent has 4 cards in hand and a card in arsenal. And that's a really good number for Kano, right? Like, that's exact Aether Wildfire math, even if they don't even have to double pump Aether Wildfire. Or like, the other one is, okay, I can send this attack. It costs 1. I leave 2 resources up. Again, I'm at 32. And I take cards out of their hand, right? It threatens lethal, so they're forced to block. They won't be able to like do stuff on their turn and then come with me on my turn. But I have 2 AB floating. I cannot be comboed from 32 unless they have the goods or like multiple potions or whatever, right? They have to hit lucky off the top. They have to hit tomes and stuff. It's not like a guaranteed combo anymore. There's so many times I'm playing in like a battle hardened, a calling or whatever, and I'm playing Kano and my opponent just chooses wrong. They just like decide, you know what? I'm going to threaten a little more damage, and they die. When I was like not going to win that game. I was going to have to Hail Mary it off the top and just hope for the best. Like, tome into blue or whatever. But if they'd have just realized like, oh, if I don't do that, then I'm in a good spot. Now there are some matchups where you can't afford to do that, right? You play Bravo. Bravo can't really afford to do that. which is why he struggles into Kano, is because your clock takes your entire hand. But if you really wanted to, you'd have 4 different go again attacks in your deck. You'd have E-Strike, Zealous, Rouse, Zealous Yellow, or whatever. Outmuscle Red. And that would make your Kano matchup a lot better because you would be able to present a better clock and have more disruption. But people want to not lose to Kano and also not change anything about their deck. Is I think like the issue here.
That's what I want to sort of get to. And I've had this is an evergreen conversation across every single card game that I've ever played, is the fact that people will be bitching about a particular deck that's strong, but not want to change a single damn thing about either their deck or their playstyle. That's basically it, because people want to sort of be put inside, they want to be comfortable in their little box. And yes, I know I'm going to get a lot of criticism here and be like, well, what am I supposed to do when I get blown out on turn 2 or 3? That's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Have you seen Blood Rush Bellows? Like, that happens all the time, right?
No offense,
it's not
but
just
like
a Kano thing.
Exactly. Like, I've played against a Rhino or a Leviathan that has Blood Rush Bellowed and intimidated my hand away, and I had to sit there and be force-fed 28 damage that I couldn't do anything about. It happens. That's part of the game. Is it ruining the game? Absolutely not. But I do want to sort of talk a little bit about 2 valid points about what environment has sort of shaken out to bring rise to Kano recently and have Kano win all these RTNs recently, etc. And I'm going to talk about Nathaniel and James, who tweeted and gave great responses as to where their thought process was in terms of why Kano's doing well. Nathaniel says basically the game has slowed down, people are worse at killing each other, and Kano's win percentage goes up the longer the game goes on. I think that's exceptionally valid and very well attuned to precisely what's going on, because you mentioned it earlier. There's an ongoing power down of the game, and if you're not doing these gigantic combat chains of 30 plus damage, like or even lower, like 18 to 20, like Lexi could do on her best turns, you're not going to get there in time. The presence is not, or the pressure is not there. And James mentioning that the meta's too wide and you can't prepare for everything. Kano takes too many slots for most decks to add to their side, so it's easier just to not. And this is probably a behavior that was happening before this major resurgence, wherein, frankly, people were like, yeah, but I'll just lose to Kano. How many could there possibly be out there?
You know how many people have said that to me when I sit down? They're like, I just decided to lose to Kano. I just needed the extra slot for the Bravo matchup, so I cut my AB.
But
that's how many people have told me that.
But I think that's a fair approach, because like in any meta breakdown of a major tournament, if there's 100 people at a tournament, there might be 20 Bravos, but there'll be 3 Kanos. So you're just playing the math there. You want to insulate against the deck that you have a tougher matchup for, which is the Bravo matchup, and against the Kano, it's like, even if I insulate against it, even if I sideboard against it, they might just high roll and go ham off me off of like some miracle draws off the top, and I might lose anyways. Like the inevitability might decrease, but the chance is still there. There's still a chance. But if I put in these 2 extra cards against Bravo, then I'm doing exceptionally well, and that changes that matchup entirely.
And then you should do that.
Precisely.
You should absolutely do that.
So
yeah.
I think that a lot of this recent hoopla about Kano is just the fact that people are learning the deck and bringing it, understanding that the meta's wide open. Nobody wants to respect Kano. I'm just going to jump in on it.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I've said this before. I've said it countless times. Kano has never been the problem. It's always been the solution to a meta where somebody just disrespects it. It comes in and it brings everyone back down to earth because it just blows everybody up on one particular tournament, and then everybody goes back to respecting it. But I think, and I want to hear your opinion on this, is this the first time that Kano is the root of the problem of a meta? Like, it is the nucleus that everybody orbits?
No. No, I don't think so. I don't think. True, man. I don't think anything revolves around Kano right now. I'm gonna be honest. Like, if I ask you what like the top 3 decks in the format are, what would you say?
I would probably say right now that it's likely, like in CC we're talking, obviously, I'd say KO. Yeah. KO's doing very well. I'd likely say Dash. Dash is getting a lot of looks, and I'm hard pressed to say Kano because it won so many RTNs in the past 2 weeks, but it would be tied for God knows what, like tied with whoever the flavor of the month is, be it, or flavor of the week is. Is it Victor? Is it, Dorinthia? Is it, who knows what it is? Is it Dromai? Is it, I don't know. I can't tell you.
So if we look at a lot of these decks, the top decks, we got to put Guardian up at the top as well, right? A lot of people play Guardian. It's still doing very well. Victor won a lot. Kano is quite good into non-teched Guardians. Victor will probably never really beat Kano. Bravo probably could if he really wanted to, but you'd need to change a lot about the deck. You'd probably need to change like 9 to 12 cards, and that's a lot to ask, and I don't think you should do that. The other top decks, KO, not a good matchup for Kano. KO beats up Kano. Non-teched KO. If KO changes 0 cards in their deck, aside from putting their AB2 hat in, right? If they have AB3, so that's 2 cards. 2 cards in their 80. This is non-teched for this matchup. It is quite favorable into Kano. Probably like at least 60-40. Yuki beat me twice in the Battle Hardened on like her first day playing KO when it was the first day KO was released.
And also just to add to that, I mean, you went down to 1 against Nia Tran in the quarterfinals of that tournament. Yeah. No, that was incredibly close, and it could have gone either way. So it's like KO good into Kano, boost dash shits on Kano. Like, it's so bad because it's efficient clock plus a ton of free AB. That's why KO is good into Kano as well. Dromai, if Dromai wants to beat Kano, it's like one of the worst matchups in the game. They don't currently, and that's why it's like a coin flip because they're trying to beat other things. But like a lot of these decks that we're agreeing are top decks. If they want to beat Kano, they crush Kano. And a lot of them crush Kano even without teching into it. Have you played Kano against Prism? Oh my God, it's so bad. It's so bad. I've been the Prism against the Kano, and we played, I think it was an old school RTN or ProQuest, and I remember we played 3 matches because I beat the dude in the first match, and then he's like, I want another go at it. I said, okay, we got time. Let's do it. And we did 3 matches, and it wasn't close either time because it's just a brutal matchup.
Yeah. You can win. I did have to beat it in my RTN, and I did win. But again, it's like an 80-20 probably if Prism has AB0. If Prism has AB2, it's like literally unwinnable. Like, you have to draw Exodia with Kano to get there. It's pretty bad. But what I'm trying to say here is like these decks, a lot of the decks already beat Kano or are favorable into Kano. And they're not even trying to. If you want to beat Kano, if you're like, oh my God, Kano's a problem. Like, nothing beats Kano. Like, you can show up and beat Kano so handedly if you wanted to. I understand that people don't want to like make the sideboard slots for it. And that's why Kano's good. One of my favorite tweets I've ever made is responding to someone else about like Kano. I don't even remember what they said. But I said, Kano is a lot like Dredge, the Magic the Gathering deck, except your deck sucks ass. And that's what it feels like. It's like, if you come unprepared for Dredge, you're going to lose to Dredge, and that's your fault. However, what Dredge does is like incredibly powerful, and it's really, really, really good, and had to have multiple bannings, and Kano is not like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kano didn't exactly. Like, I'm still stuck on the fact that the deck has essentially gone unchanged for so long, and it's just currently a problem because, like, the way that the winds are blowing, yeah, it's well positioned within this meta. It's kind of funny to me that it's like you had all this time to be mad at this deck, so why now? One of the aspects of this that I want to address that kind of, I don't want to say it disappoints me, but it's like it's such a terrible argument to make. I love Pheno Black. I think that Pheno is awesome. And Pheno is very critical right now about Kano because a lot of people are. And the conversation that Pheno is having is a valid one. It's a concern. And when people respond to Pheno and say, yeah, but you played Prism, that is such a non-argument. It's such a non-rebuttal. It's such a really weak response Because, yeah, he played Prism. Who the hell cares? That is a polarizing matchup in that particular... If your defense of Kano is to say, well, you played Prism, that immediately loses you the argument. That's one
We
thing.
love whataboutism.
Exactly. That's not the... Now you have two problems that you've created, or that you're... Like, that's not a response. So I want to go up to bat here for my boy Fino, because the people who are saying, how can you possibly complain about Kano when you played Prism? You can, because they're two separate things. They're two separate things. You can't be like going to a restaurant and be like, hey, my soup is cold, and then go like, yeah, but that guy's steak is hot. It's like, who the hell cares? That doesn't solve this problem. I don't know why I'm thinking about a deli, because I was watching Seinfeld
you're
earlier.
hungry, I guess.
I am definitely hungry.
I'm with you. I think you're totally right. I think you can't say like, oh, I think Kano's unhealthy for the game. You can't be like, but you play Prism. But if you say, I haven't watched Fino's video on Kano. I plan to, but I just haven't gotten the time yet. I'll probably watch it later today.
I haven't
so I don't
watched
know exactly
it.
What he
I
says.
haven't. I'm just going purely by like some Twitter
If
conversations.
someone, not Fino, because I think Fino's takes on metas are usually like pretty reasonable. If someone says, I hate Kano because it has volatile matchups and creates non-games for specific matchups, and then but you say, but I like Prism, then I can be like,
sure, that's fair.
But
That's totally fair. I mean, but that just having that in your back pocket and be like, yeah, but you did this. That's not an argument. I hate to tell you, it's not an argument. There's a lot of I was sort of weeding out and sort of cherry picking some of the responses to all this Kano dialogue off of Twitter, and I'm not gonna name names, but I'm gonna give you some of the quotes regarding the Kano deck and the Kano matchup. And here they are. So basically, like all this, the curious case of, is Kano ruining Flesh and Blood? It's not. It might ruin your specific opinion or your play experience. But newsflash, you are one of millions who play this game. Like, it happens. So let's go with the first quote, Majiin. Kano is the epitome of a negative game experience to anyone who faces him.
wow.
Any response?
I love wizard mares. I think they're very fun. So not the negative game experience for me. I don't agree. I do want to like jump in here and say something, because I think this is important to get across to some people. Everyone has their thing they like in card games, right? Like, you really like Bravo. Mm-hmm. You like that playstyle a lot. It's important that people have playstyles they enjoy. When I looked at Flesh and Blood for the first time, I looked at all the heroes, I read all the heroes. Kano was dog shit meme tier. This was before PT1. I looked at all the heroes, and I looked at Kano, and I said, I'm playing Wizard. Because that's what I like to do. I like decks that, and it looks like we might actually get into this later. I like decks that get stronger the later the game goes on, and I like to do something really, really cool. I like to attack the game from a unique angle, a different axis, right? And then when people were like, oh, Icelander's rotating, if Kano's not good, like if Kano's unplayably bad, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm going to play a different game. Because it's really important to me to have these kind of playstyles. This is how I like to play games. So you might, some people might not like Kano or whatever, but it's important to have some kind of combo playstyle, I think, in games. One, it keeps a cap on, we don't have to get super into this, but it keeps a cap on how degenerate like control decks can get. Instead of just out trying to like fatigue each other or whatever, you just can't do that, because then you lose to Kano. But I think it's important to have these kinds of playstyles and understand that people enjoy these playstyles, right? I'm not asking that they remove Illusionist from the game. I mean, okay, I am jokingly, but like, because people really enjoy that kind of playstyle. They want to put allies out. They want things on the board. They want their stuff to grow, right? Like, and that's important that people who enjoy that get to have that. I might not like to play against it, but I'll never ask that like Prism gets removed from the game, right? I think it's important that people have that, and it's important that we have things like Kano, right? Even if people don't like it. I'm sorry, I got away from the question. Well,
no. It wasn't. The question wasn't really a question. It was more so the fact, like, how do you respond to that quote of that, Kano's the epitome of a negative game experience that everybody, for anyone who faces it. Look, I will say this. I would like to think that I am a human being playing Flesh and Blood within. So, I mean, anyone who faces him? No, because there are people who aren't gonna be completely upset when you got comboed. Combo exists. It exists in most games that are out there that have had time to develop a card pool where these combos can coalesce and do crazy things. It existed in in Gwent, in Legends of Runeterra. It existed in it exists in multiple incredible amounts of busted ass shit in Magic, obviously, and now it exists or has existed for a while in Flesh and Blood. Combo isn't unique to Kano. The first time I ever was dumbfounded by an opponent was against a local named Raymond Chow at a RTN, one of my first ever RTNs, where he played combo Bolton, Saber's combo Bolton, where he just went off, and I had no clue what hit me. And that's on me. That's not because he played a deck that made for a poor experience. I thought the experience was great. I was like, holy crap, that's insane. And then we walked through it, and he talked me through it, and I never lost the combo Bolton again because I knew how to beat it. It wasn't that it was a big... And the thing about it is, like, there was just as many combo Boltons at the tournament as there were Kanos. Was I prepared for it? No. Was I aware of it moving forward? Yeah. But was I teching my entire strategy and deck to beat it? Again, no. But I knew how to approach it at the very least because I took the time to understand how it worked. So
why do you think Bolton doesn't get the same hate as Kano? Because they do, like, combo Bolton specifically, they do the same thing. They play underrate cards to set up for a really big turn that you can't completely block out. What's the difference?
I'm guessing the instant speed element to it.
Probably.
I mean, I would say that it's just a matter of Bolton can pull the trigger on their big turn, but they have to do so when your opponent has 4 cards in hand. Right? Like,
okay.
And
it feels like you can do something.
Correct. There's at least a certain amount of, like, I have got at least 4 cards to insulate against this, to protect against this big combo turn. When you're doing it against I'm going to say Stormstriders, frankly, I think that's a major aspect to it, wherein here comes Kano. I just pitched 2 blues to dominate a chokeslam red. I've got 1 blue left in hand.
Old.
Well, yeah, obviously, but it's like
yeah.
But it's like I've got the Kano player to 5. This is how we're gonna do it, or down to what? Like I have
it or don't. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I'm putting the onus on you. Like I remember playing in a pro quest where I played against an Icelander and as Bravo, and my only outcome to this was I'm like, my game plan is to make you have it. If you don't, we'll get there. And I played against Robin, and I just got her. I just got Robin, and she was. I don't say she wasn't happy. She wasn't mad or anything, but she's like, I couldn't believe that you played as if I didn't have it, and every single time
you just don't have it.
That's
you don't have it sometimes. Yeah.
That's the thing. Is like I literally said, I'm like, I had to play it this way. I had to play it as if you didn't have it, and I won. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but against the Bolton, it's like, yeah, you've got it. But when I'm down to 1 card, it's still my turn, but you with instant speed and Stormstriders, etc., you have the opportunity to be like, you just spent 4 resources or 6 resources of your hand to beat me, but I still got an opportunity now that you're spent. It's kind of like, I think that's where it is, because I think if Combo Bolton could be like, I'm going to do my combo after you present an attack, yeah, it would be just as busted and hated, in my opinion, because they're also gaining life. Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I want to reiterate that it's okay to hate Kano. Like, it's okay to hate playing against it. It's fine. Like,
yes.
that's fine.
That's fine.
You can hate it. I hate playing against certain things too.
I hate playing against Dash. I hate playing against Dash.
Yeah. I've gotten that feeling from you. I despise
hating against Dash. And I've played against, good Dash players. I played against Aiden Kwasniewski, who's like a Dash main for however long, and I've never beaten him. I've come close, but I've never beaten him. I hate playing against Dash. It's just like, is Dash bad for the game? Sure, if you're a Bravo player, it's the worst thing ever. For sure.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
terrible.
It's the worst.
It's just not productive to be like, I hate Kano, therefore like ban him, right? Like, that doesn't help anybody.
Well, here's a more sprinkle of hate for you. We got, and I quote, Kano is, quote, obnoxious. Sure.
He is. Have you seen his art? Look at that man's face.
Yeah,
that dude's smug.
He is big time smug life for sure. Absolutely. Another one is, quote, doesn't feel like you're playing Flesh and Blood. You are. I mean, what does it feel like?
I get it though. I get the game shifts. It's about different things when you play against Kano. So I get that argument, right? That's how I like to play Flesh and Blood, but I get that that's not how some people like to play it.
It's a different style. Like it's the second. It's within the 5 to 8 hero roster. Like it came out in set 2. It's part of Flesh and Blood. It's just a different. If it's like Wizard plays differently than everything else. Rune Blades have a different sort of game plan as Guardians.
Just put thing on the board that stay there. You have to attack them. That changes the game of Flesh and Blood drastically. It's just like that's how Flesh and Blood works. Some heroes do different things, you know, like
illusionists don't like. Does illusionist feel like you're playing Flesh and Blood when they've got permanents galore, be it auras or dragons or other nonsense? Like, I don't know. It seems like it's pretty annoying to me. Imagine they put out a merchant and there's just items all over the freaking place that you're doing crazy stuff with. Is that playing Flesh and Blood? Yes, we're all playing.
I like how we were like, whataboutism isn't a real argument, and then someone's like, Kano's not like playing Flesh and Blood. We're like, what?
Well, what I'm saying is that no, this is all to say. I'm like, these are all different iterations of how to play Flesh and Blood. And I get it because it might be different than what you're used to because, again, it comes back to the fact that not many players play Kano. A lot more are learning because they're like, well, shit, now is the winter of
cool.
our... It is freaking cool. But it takes a lot of time to learn it. When I learned Prism, I put in dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of just matchups and learning the intricacies of which little instant speed window to slam an aura at. When I sat with you, when I sat with Peter, and we went through a lot of scenarios about how to learn Kano, I'm like, this is so much more difficult. You taught me Icelander, and I was still trying to figure out, what do I do here? What do I do here? What do I do here? And it's not straightforward. But it's there. It's available. It's not paywalled. It's not like it's a situation where, only, the Kano Club has like only 30 members and all the spots are, you can go on the waiting list. You could pick up Kano right now. That's it. But like, you could pick up Kano today, go to your RTN, win it if people aren't prepared, and then you become hated. Like if you want, but you got the RTN, you got the gold foil. Like, what's stopping you? A lot of it, and this is unfortunate, but I'm going to say this flat out, is that a lot of hatred for a hero comes down to the fact that you're just not willing to either put in the work or you're not good enough to beat it. And look, I'm saying this from the perspective of if Kano was that absolutely unbeatable, all top 8s would be like 6 Kanos. Like it's
like one in top 8s like every time.
But that's the reality.
Like one guy, yeah.
But some people are going to have to hear this, and this is just the truth amongst all other card games that I've ever been involved with over 25 plus years. Decks are going to be good. They're going to be good in pockets of time, and then they're going to be bad in pockets of time. And every deck is one card away from being garbage. One card printed away from being absolutely inept and laughable. But in the meantime, just ask yourself, are you losing to Kano because you have basically conceded that matchup to improve your matchups across the whole board? Are you losing to it because you just don't know how it works and you don't care enough to learn how it works and to spot the signals and signs of when shit's going down, and what to AB and what not to AB and what to hold your Oasis Respite for, etc.? Or are you just mad because you keep losing and you just, and you don't want to change a damn thing? Stubbornness is absolutely something like a hindrance for people improving their game. I've seen it dozens of times. People who are like, no, this is the deck. Is it? It was the deck last week, but shit changes. And in Flesh and Blood, shit changes a lot slower. But here we are, Majiin, and like people are like, what the fuck? I just went through 6 months of Kano being not a problem, and now it's a problem. I feel uncomfortable. I don't want to change a damn thing.
Also, Kano was the problem last week, right? That was what's spawning all of this discussion, or like 2 weeks ago. I don't know when this is releasing. But like the first or second week of RTNs, Kano had its spike. It was like, I don't know, it won the most RTNs the very first week of RTNs. The second week of RTNs, you know what won the most by a landslide? Victor. Like 100% matchup for Kano. So if Kano's a problem, why is its best matchup winning all of these RTNs? Like I don't know, man. It's okay to hate Kano. But like this deck's not ruining Flesh and Blood. It's not even good. It's just winning small events for the first time in its 4-year career after getting no new cards. Just let Wizard players have a month and then pack your Spell Void and AB and never worry about it again. Like it's really not that big of a deal.
Sometimes it just comes down to it where you don't like what you don't know. And if you don't know why you're losing to a Kano, it's easy to just be mad and upset. But ask the Kano player.
I was at 35 and then I attacked them and they were 1 and I died.
Sure. And
yeah.
I'm not saying that it's an issue of pride or whatever, but like when I lose a game, I want to know why I lost. I mean, I say this and at the end of every episode, you're not losing if you're learning. If I can come away from a loss with one extra sort of arrow in the quiver to be like, now I know where I should be aiming, or now I know that I need this to do this sooner, or to delay this, or to pack this, or whatever. Like that's improvement. But ask the Kano player, like, hey, what could I have done to make this harder for you? And a lot of the times the Kano player will probably say like, hey, on this turn, you shouldn't have dominated the attack. You should have held the extra resources, or yada, yada, yada. Like, who knows, whatever the matchup is. But you're right. Like the Bravo matchup is tough. It's a tough matchup for me because I have to kind of balls to the walls it to a degree where if I don't, like it becomes a race. And if I don't have you in a position where my Anathos for 6 is not lethal or like whatever, like then it's a problem.
You're gonna lose.
Yeah.
I was playing a game a couple days ago against like a KO, right? They were well and far ahead, and I was at like 2 or 3 or something. And I kept a hand of like Aether Flare something, right? Like, so I present Aether Flare, and my opponent AB3s. And then I came off the top and hit like Lessons in Lava, and I cast it. My opponent AB3s, so it's 2 blues gone. They're at 34, right? Really high life total. And then my opponent pitches a yellow to cast Pulping from their hand. 0 cards left, 0 resources up. They're threatening lethal, and I kill them. And then they were like, "Man, fuck Kano." But like, if I could talk to that person or whatever and be like, "Hey, you just don't AB the Lessons in Lava. And you keep up 3, and then you put guaranteed lethal with Pulping because I can't block it, and you have AB3, and let me walk you through the math of how hard it is to kill you at 32 through AB3, right? It's like so hard if I don't have like 2 potions up or something. It's so incredibly hard. I have to get so lucky. But they didn't understand that. They were just like, oh, block the damage, doot, present the lethal, and they died. But if they understood even a little bit how Kano worked, then they would have been massively far ahead, and they probably would have won that game. And that happens so often.
You got to ask questions, though. Like, the Kano player's not going to sit there and be like, okay, let me explain to you how I beat you.
So you can beat me in top 8. Like,
precisely. That's it.
Yeah.
But this is a community, in my opinion, that is such that every experience that I've ever had, and I don't know if it's just because it's me, and I completely understand that, I might hold a whisper of influence when I'm somewhere in a Flesh and Blood environment. But when I ask my opponent after I lose, hey, what could I have done to beat you, or what could I have done to improve it? They always are happy to explain to me, but they'll never surrender it. Because at the same time, it's also one of those situations where they don't want to sort of rub salt in the wound. Because I know you Kano players are already kind of dancing the line when it comes to a love-hate relationship.
People aren't happy losing to me, period.
Exactly.
I don't want to be like, let me tell you why you lost to me.
Bingo.
Right.
And you're MajiinBae. You're Smiley. You're the guy who is the most inviting and kind and happy to share this information. But even you know that with whatever soft skills you might possess, that it is not a good thing to be like, well, here's how I beat you, by the way.
Yeah, no one wants to hear that.
But
yeah.
I always try to relish in the losses and try to take away from it the situation of like, hey, congratulate your opponent for beating the hell out of you, but at the same time, ask them, because at the same time, they might have information that you don't have. But if you don't seek that information, and this goes from before you even hit the table, if you don't understand how Kano works, you will not understand how you lost. Because like you said, you're A-B'ing the lessons in lava and not the Aether Flare, or the wildfire that might be coming by. Like if you're devoting your resources to the wrong thing, that's one small little piece of information that you can pick up by watching that Arsenal Pass video or watching this or asking your opponent and saying like, hey, back in Cheerios, Briar, it's like, why am I running Shock Charmers? Well, there's Spell Void 2. Well, why wouldn't I just run AB? Well, because the Spell Void 2 on the wildfire.
How much damage is that worth?
Yeah.
10.
It's incredible.
10 damage.
Right?
Did you know that?
I knew
a
that
lot of people don't.
I knew that it was a lot. I think it was like X5 or something like that, depending on what it is. But ultimately, that's something that a lot of people just don't know, because they'll just huff and puff and say, fuck Kano, and get up and leave, and then get blown up by the next Kano, and then that's the thing. And the Kano players are well aware of this. They're well aware of the fact that people are ignorant to how it works. And that's not a fault of the player, because players have limited time to learn this shit. But at the same time, if you're driving down the same road and you keep hitting the same pothole, eventually you're going to swerve to the left or right to avoid it. But if you just say, well, it's not going to be there this time, and you fucking nail it again, that's on you, dude. That is on you. It's unfortunate, but that's the truth. And yeah, you could take another route. You can go to another RTN. You go somewhere else. And maybe you're like, hey, maybe there's no potholes here, until you fucking bottom out your car because, again, you didn't do your due diligence to sort of learn what the hell's coming up against you. But seriously,
No, I'm with you.
fuck you and fuck Kano, man.
Yeah, no, understandable.
Oh, Lord. Okay, we got real here, and I think that's important because, hey, I'm a quality journalist. Did you know that?
This was very official. Yeah.
Definitely. We do have a question from Alex De Laurentiis asking, in the Arclight League, by the way, go check out the Arclight League run by good buddy Vishra. You are playing, he says, in the Arclight League, he's playing Control Dash and Control Teklovasen so far. I believe I also casted one of your matches where you were playing Bravo, right?
I did play Bravo. I was trying to play Victor, but my buddy didn't wake up early enough to give me the list, so I played Bravo.
He is looking to play a lot more mech competitively in the future. Are you looking to play more mech competitively in the future? And do you have a preference between them, since you're mostly known for Wizard?
Yeah, okay. So I actually have a lot to say about this. A lot of people don't know this. I put a lot of time into Dash.io because I think it's neat. I like to do cool things, and Dash.io does cool things. But if I could boil down my entire playstyle and what I enjoy about not even just card games, just all strategy games, across every single strategy game, this is how I like to play. The longer the game goes, I want to get stronger. I want to know that if I can just hold out, I'm going to be better. Like my deck or my strategy or my fucking fighting game character is going to be stronger than yours later in the game. That's just how I like to play things. That's why I like Wizards so much. I get to do cool shit, and the longer the game goes, the better it is for me. Right? I just have to hold out. Control Mech does a lot of those things. Pistol Dash, you build up your Exodia pistols or whatever. Teklovasen, you eventually ascend into the Mechropode. I don't remember what it's called. But you do like a lot of damage. You do really cool things. I want to do that a lot more, and I think Mech offers a lot of those options. The other reason is because of how the league works, I can't really play Kano because you find out beforehand who your opponent is, and then you pick your deck.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Everyone goes, oh, I'm playing MajiinBae this week, and you just don't submit anything that Kano beats, right? So like, I finally decided to just pull the trigger and play Kano, and this is a small spoiler, I suppose, for one of the matchups. I run directly into a Prism.
And how did that go? Well, fine.
He played AB2, and it was. You'll find out. I'm not going to tell you.
You'll find out. But if you listen to this conversation 20 minutes ago, we knew all of the
Yeah.
the percentages.
Yep. So it was rough. So like I love Wizard because of like one, big spells, no units have always appealed to me. That's what I enjoy. And I like it because it fulfills the other things that I like, right? If I had to look outside of Wizard, it would be things like Control Dash, or Dash IO, doing like really cool things, setting up for really, really big explosive things. I think that's really neat. So am I looking to play mech in the future? Maybe. I almost brought I tried to play Fatigue Dash or Slab Dash, whatever you want to call it, at the Realm Games 20K Invitational, but couldn't find all the cards. And then Nathan Crawford talked me into Kano, and I like top 16 to that event or something, or top 32 to it, I think.
Hey, Nathan's a smart dude. I told Nathan, and I mean it. Nathan's one of my favorite players because he plays
like him
decks.
a lot,
yeah, and he's just a nice guy.
He told me, and I quote, "What are you, stupid? Just play Kano. What are you, stupid?"
Oh, good old Nathan.
It was
What are you,
very funny.
stupid? It's like,
So,
honestly, a lot of the times, that's usually the bedrock of my decision tree. It ends up at all the arrows have come down to, are you stupid? And then that's the final decision making.
So to answer the question, am I looking to play a lot more mech competitively in the future? Maybe. I think mech has one of the most interesting possible paths of evolution in the future of the game, to me. And do I have a preference between them? Yeah, whichever one gets stronger the later the game goes on.
I like that. No, that's good. Like, for example, as a Bravo main, Heavy Hitters was announced. I was like, yeah, more blue block threes that turn on Anathos. Yeah, like that's basically what it was for me. Because unless there was another Guardian Big Smash Majestic that was gonna, rip people in half, then I wasn't caring because we got Starstruck. Like we got Starstruck in 2023. That's good for us. Let's move on. 2024, we'll find something down the line. But Heavy Hitters was kind of like nothing for Bravo. So besides,
which is kind of funny.
Blue
but you got
Funk,
like Victor, which is cool.
Yeah, well, no, exactly. Victor's great, and I think that's the next tier I kind of want to dive into. I played my first ever, and I tell you this with complete sincerity, the first ever game of Warrior that I have ever played in my entire Flesh and Blood career happened this past weekend at an RTN. I got absolutely dunked on. It was a terrible, terrible draft experience. I ended up in the bottom pod. We're just having fun. And everybody looked at me and said, well, we all know Flake's going to draft Guardian because he doesn't play Warrior ever. And then I opened Prize Galea in my opening pack. I was like, let's do some Olympia. So and then for the record, that pod, 0 Guardians. So had I just, because everybody was like, Flake's just going to take all the Guardian cards anyways, and it didn't matter. None of us were alive for top 8, so we're just having fun. And that was it. However, pack 1, pick 5, standing order.
That card's incredible in every deck.
Pick 5.
Wow.
Yeah, I was
That's
like,
crazy. That must have been an insane pack.
Well, I asked the dude, I said, because I'm like, what did you take over this? And he took a foil Blade Fury. So like,
fair.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, that's fair. He's like, yeah,
that's the other 3 guys.
Well, and I asked, I was like, well, I think I took other dude took like flat trackers. I was like, okay,
sure.
There'll be more. Next person after that was like, well, I was already, there was a good Brute card. Okay, there'll be more. I'm not complaining because I walked away with a terrible record. But I did play Olympia, and it went super poorly because I had no clue what I was doing. But I did break my Warrior cherry.
There you go. I think I enjoyed Kasai more than I thought I would. But mostly in Constructed, I like her because she has the boots that constantly give you value. So you block for like 8 over the course of your game, and you're like, this is nice.
It's a great thing. It's like a kind of like a crown of seeds. Like the amount of value you get from those boots is insane. Absolutely insane. Oh, MajiinBae. I don't know what else to say to you, buddy. I just enjoy spending time with you and talking to you. It's always great to have you on the podcast.
For people who don't know, we're like friends. We like talk all the time.
Yeah, we talk fairly regularly. We both have very busy schedules, but it's one of those things where we have like a standing order date when it comes to any event that we're at, where it's like we will seek out ramen, whether it happens or not. But like usually at an event, there's always the let's go on our little bro date of like 3 or 4 people far away and just have our bro time. But
It's funny because we're both content creators that know a lot of people, but our social battery runs out during these events, so it's really nice to just sit down in silence and not talk about card games for a little bit.
Basically, that's it. And look, I love to talk to people about card games. I want to talk to you at the event about your deck and about this and your experiences, your wins, your losses, your triumphs, your tragedies, all that. I adore it. It's what connects me to everybody. When I'm eating dinner at like 9 p.m. or something like that, no offense, I don't care what your pack 2 pick 5 was. I don't want to hear it.
Standing order.
It was, well, that was pack 1 pick 5.
Oh, my bad.
Pack 2 pick 5 was cast bones. No, I'm kidding. That would have been ridiculous. I'm just saying, like, it's just, here's what endeared me most to you initially was there was that time where I think it was you, me, and Andy. No, not Andy. Your other buddy. Big mountain guy. What's his name?
Austin.
Yeah. Austin, that's it. Yeah. We were sharing a hotel room, and at I forgot what event it was, and we're like, everybody's going out and doing all kinds of stuff, and you're just like, hey man, do you just want to like go get some like drinks from like the store and like order food and just hang out in the hotel and watch like League of Legends? I was like, yes. Oh my God, yes. And then we just laid on the bed watching League of Legends on your phone, eating food and having drinks. It was like, I was like, this is what I want to do. And don't get me wrong, like I love going out and hanging out with people and everything, but like on a 4 or 5 day event, I'm so drained that those hotel rooms.
Exhausting.
Yeah. I have a thing with DM Armada whenever we do like a min-max event or something together. After doing like 10 rounds or 11 rounds in a day, we are completely gassed. What we do is we go to one or the other's hotel room, we order pizza, we watch TV, and the rule is minimal talking. Like, no, it's not like, it's just sit in silence, just be together,
vibing,
like making a random comment here and there, making a fun joke. But that's the best part about it. But yeah,
I wish there was like a better way to say, hey, do you want to go get food, but like sit on our phones and not really talk to each other, like,
but we
get
in
a
it.
Friendly way.
Yeah, but like we get it, and again, I love you dearly, and I do appreciate everything that you've done for me, for the community, for everything, and just being a good friend, buddy. So
thanks, man.
Yeah, no worries.
Appreciate that.
No worries. All right, so I do want to also let everybody know that you are available on Twitter if they want to go check you out at MajiinBae LOR.
True.
And talk to us a little bit about your streaming schedule now if people want to go in and ask you questions and why you're not playing Gwent.
Yeah, so I'm not playing Gwent. I know that was a front runner for games to play next. Not playing Gwent. I'm streaming Teamfight Tactics. Riot's auto battler game. Usually like Monday through Friday, about 11 a.m. Pacific to like 4 p.m. Pacific. Kind of doing like a 0 to hero arc right now. I'm a pretty decent TFT player, but I only started playing recently a couple sets ago, and not taking it super seriously. I'd play for like 2 weeks per set. I hit Masters a couple times, but now it's time to go from like a pretty good player to like, I'm trying to be like a really good player, like challenger level, playing in tournaments and stuff. And that idea like really appeals to me because I am just a knowledge whore. Like I'm a slut for learning, right? Like I don't know. I just see it's like, oh, here's this thing where you can compete in, and you know, it's just like a mountain of information. And the more you learn, the better you are. And I don't know, that just does something to me. So like I've been really enjoying pivoting to something that I just like not only am not very good at, but is a little outside of my wheelhouse. TFT is not a card game, right? And there's APM stuff that matters. You have to be faster, and I'm not used to that, and I'm old. And so like it's been really fun for me to try out something new. So if you want to join me, learn TFT and stuff, watch me try to be really good at the game. Yeah, that's what I do on stream now.
It's a very good stream to watch. I do highly recommend it because you're a wholesome presence, and I love it. And the information whore part is so true. What people might not know about you is that you read more books than probably anybody I know. You are, any opportunity that you get, I see you on your like e-reader reading books, or on your phone reading books. And when I say this, it's not like, oh, he's in a corner between rounds. He's on an escalator. It's like, oh, there's 15 seconds I've got. I can read another 2 paragraphs. He'll just hammer them through. You and I were next to each other on the flight home from Barcelona, from Barcelona to Montreal, I think it was. And there we were, and you were just hammering out the pages while I was trying to learn Runeterra on my phone, which was great. But yeah, you are certainly
big reader. Yeah,
a
love
learning
some books.
whore. You learn.
It is funny because that is exactly, the escalator thing is funny because that's exactly what I do. It's like, oh yeah, I have 15 seconds. I'm gonna just, and I have books that I'm constantly reading multiple books all at the same time. I have like my Kindle book that I need to like sit down and really like jump into, and then I constantly have 6 or 7 books open on my phone. Like I have like 5 or 6 Google tabs that are various web fictions that I can jump into any of them at any point. And then I also have the Kindle app on my phone. I just love reading. I don't know. It's like a problem.
Yeah, it's not a problem. It's a good problem to have.
I don't read good books.
Dude, I
don't
still
read things that make you learn things.
No, but I mean, I love, I read a lot of science fiction. Like I read a lot of canonical Star Wars books because that universe is just so wonderful to me. I also read a lot of sports biographies about athletes that intrigue me, but I also read a lot of books about quantum theory and theoretical physics. Like to me, that is, I'll understand 25% of it, but to me, that's magic to me. That is legitimate. Like when you read something about like quantum entanglement, and you're like, that is a real proven thing that still boggles our freaking mind. And that is wonderment to me. And I can get it from reading Star Wars. I can get it from reading things, but like wherever you get that, it's just important. It expands your horizons. Learning how, just a good book about whatever the fuck it is.
I'm too stupid for that. So I watch PBS Space Time, which is one of my favorite YouTube channels.
Look,
because they talk about that stuff, but they have nice graphics. And I'm like,
that's
I get
fine,
that.
Dude. That is fine. Like I always encourage people that even to just pursue your interests, whether you understand them fully or not. And I think that this is possibly what really deters people from, expanding those horizons. Is like, well, it's like the same reason why I don't pick up a freaking banjo or whatever. It's because like I'm gonna suck and not know how to do it for a long time. Yeah, but you know what? Like when I learned guitar, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, and then I learned, oh, this is a G chord, this is an A, this is like now I know 3 chords, and that's a good start. Am I gonna go open for John Mayer? No, but at least it's a little bit, and now it teaches you to appreciate more, and it might pique your interest to be like, I want to know 5 chords. I want to know this song. I want to know this catalog. I want to be able to freestyle or whatever. It's a little bit here and there. That's a whole other topic.
I mean, dive into your interest. Really, really go for it, even if it's Kano.
Fuck yeah. Good way to bring it all around, man.
See, you're not the only one who's good at transitions.
Damn right.
I can do it too.
Good job, dude. All right. So I do want to say thank you to, again, our sponsors at the Realm Gaming Network. You can go to therealmgamingnetwork.com. We gave away $10 of store credit to Martin Cox this week. Next week, on the next episode, I will tell you who wins $50 of store credit at therealmgamingnetwork.com, because it's one of you listening who's going to go in the comments of this video and tell me which hero you hate playing against the most, but you have to say something nice about that hero or that deck. It can't just be like, fuck this hero and that or whatever. You got to tell me the hero you hate playing against, but give me one nice thing about that deck or about that kind of hero. Deal? And
I hate playing against Prism, but Prism's cold foils are the prettiest cards in the game.
Sure. That works. You're in. You're in the contest. Congratulations. Good for you. And finally, again, that's I want to give a shout out to our Patreon subscribers. Again, you guys are awesome. For as little as $2 a month, you can go ahead and give me a pat on the back and say, hey, we appreciate what you do. But for our tier 3 Patreon people, you're going to get a little something called Go Again that comes out on Sundays, because I'm going to get Kules here to lock and load for another 10 to 15 minutes, where I'm going to ask him things like, where did you get the name Kules? What is your greatest accomplishment? And what game is just outright bad? We're going to ask him all these things on the Go Again segment. But until then, Kules, thank you so much again for being a friend and for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
No worries, friends. All right, you know the drill. You're not losing if you're learning. So ask Kano why you're losing. Good question.
You should do that, actually.
Definitely. Definitely do that. See you next time on ISP. Bye.
Well, I work hard.